Are working American train cars too much to ask for? It seems to be the case with Trainz a New Era, because this Amtrak locomotive I downloaded is a P32 ACDM repainted to look like an Amtrak P40 DC. Great locomotive. I used it all the time on Trainz 2012, but on Trainz a New Era, it won't even appear because it has faulty dependencies. And let's see what dependencies they are. The faulty ones are the interior, the whole thing, and the front and rear bogies, which is really bad because the only bogies that work for this locomotive are the ones it comes with. There are no other bogies on the entire download station that you can put on this locomotive where it would actually fit correctly. And believe me, I tried. I tried all kinds of two-axle bogies, and they just don't fit. They either sink below the ground or sink into the body of the locomotive. So far, I still haven't found any that fit correctly. As for the interior, I usually just change it to some random interior that has similar looking controls, which is okay, but it's still pretty useless without the bogies, unless I just don't go outside the train the entire time I'm driving it. For some reason, not a single one of the repainted P32 ACDMs will work on this game. For some reason, the cab is faulty, and so are the bogies, which are pretty much the most important dependencies because you can't just replace them with something else. I don't know why, but for some reason, Trainz a New Era looks for any excuse not to let a vehicle appear in the game. This is a bogie for a baggage car. It was faulty just because it didn't have a preview image, so I had to go through the trouble of giving it a preview just so it would work in the game. Why? Who knows? To tell you the truth, I could care less if a bogie has a preview image or not. In fact, I usually just ignore those errors. Like, why do you even need a preview image anyway? Like, I know what it is, I know what it looks like, so I don't really need it at all. I never really used this locomotive, but I really like the horn, so I kept it anyway. But unfortunately, on Trainz a New Era, it's faulty. It has faulty dependencies because... what's this? The bogie is faulty. And why is the bogie faulty? Because binary texture file C22 Taurus bogie shadow black dot texture is not a texture file for arc $FLD $ original /##38 QID 38 99 87 11.11.113.tzarc, whatever that means. And because texture is C22 Taurus bogie shadow black dot texture is missing or could not be loaded in mesh C22 Taurus bogie shadow C22 Taurus bogie shadow .pm. This specific error, the one on the bottom, I was actually able to fix on Trainz 2012 by changing the .texture file to a JPG file and making a new texture.txt document telling it to use the JPG file instead. But for some reason, when I try to do that on Trainz a New Era, instead of actually working, it instead tells me that the texture.txt file is missing, even though I told it not to use the .texture file anymore and to just use the JPG file. The X2000 is one of my favorite Amtrak trains. Too bad the horn doesn't work on this game. Here's a P40 I tried to fix by changing its bogies. As you can see, they don't fit. And I will never find one that does, because only the P32 bogies fit on it, and they're faulty. These Out 46s worked after I gave them a preview image. which is sad because I could care less if it had a preview image or not, because I already know what an Out 46 looks like. But unfortunately, this game requires that this locomotive had a preview image for it to work, because the preview image is very important to the functioning of the locomotive. The only reason this cab car works is because I deleted the missing dependencies, which were built into Trainz 2012, but for some reason when you try to import them to Trainz A New Era, and this is usually the case when trying to import content from that game, it is faulty, usually because texture.txt files are missing, or because the textures just don't want to work for some reason. This is my favorite diesel locomotive for New Jersey Transit. Unfortunately, it's faulty because... let's see, why is it faulty? Oh wait, that's the wrong button. Okay, it has like 11 errors. Let's see, failed to open binary texture. Texture P32 body main.texture is missing and could not be loaded. Failed to open binary texture, which is a new error that I can't fix because there is nothing out there that'll... if it can't open the texture, then there's really nothing I can do about it. Even if I try to make a new texture, it's still going to try to use the old one, and it's still going to say it doesn't work. Now, here's some problems I'm having with boxcars on this game. This boxcar was built into Trainz 2012, but when you try to import it to Trainz A New Era, it's faulty because, well, for a lot of reasons. Binary texture file, 40-foot boxcar, body skin.texture is not a texture file for arc, semicolon, FLD, semicolon, $, parentheses, local, /hash -9E, whatever that means. But that's the most important error because it's the main one that you can't fix. Other errors that are really hard to fix are, let's see, texture 40-foot boxcar, body 2 side dot texture is missing or could not be loaded. Those problems are usually pretty easy to fix on Trainz 2012, but when they use the exact same methods that worked on that game, they still don't work on this game. All of these boxcars are faulty for the exact same reasons as the one that I mentioned earlier. This boxcar has faulty dependencies. Let's see what they are. 50-foot 2-door boxcar. And it's faulty because, well, a bunch of stuff. Progressive messaging no longer supported by Trainz. Binary texture file 50-foot 2-door boxcar body main.texture is not a texture file for whatever. Texture 50-foot 2-door boxcar body main.texture is missing and could not be loaded, etc., etc. Well, at least the bogies for the boxcar work. Too bad the boxcar itself won't work. This 2-bay airslide hopper golden loaf GACX number 48199 is, well, it looks like the freight car itself is working, but it has faulty dependencies. And the faulty dependency is 54-foot covered hopper. And it's faulty for the exact same reasons the other boxcars I mentioned earlier are faulty, which means it's damaged beyond repair. Let's see, this is a totally different type of boxcar, but it's still faulty because it's still dependent on this 54-foot covered hopper thing. Why? I'm not even sure why it needs it. They're not even the same type of hopper car, so it's not like a paint shed issue. And this one also, faulty dependencies. 54-foot covered hopper. The rest of the faulty hopper cars in this game are faulty for that exact same reason, that they are dependent on that 54-foot covered hopper. Now this 100-ton 4-bay hopper, why is this faulty? Well, it's got a bunch of warnings, and it's got a bunch of texture errors. And these are all faulty because they have texture errors as well. The hopper cars from Jointed Rail work, but they all have that error that says icon.tga is incorrectly used as both a reference file and a whatever type file. And I had to fix that by copying the icon file, renaming the copy, and going into the texture.txt document and telling it to use the copied file instead of the original. That seems to make it work, but I hate having to do all that just to get one freight car to work, and I had to do that for most of the Jointed Rail content. Now, why is this faulty? Let's see. More binary texture errors. A big chunk of the flat cars I download don't work in this game because binary texture errors. Norfolk Southern 37 makes some really good tank cars, but unfortunately this JRPX 20,800 gallon tank car is faulty on this game. I think it was built into Trainz 2012. The reason why it's faulty is a bunch of failed to load textures and a bunch of binary texture errors and a bunch of missing texture.txt documents. And even when I tried to fix them the way I usually fix them on Trainz 2012, the errors still appeared, so there was nothing I could do to fix that one tank car, sadly. Another problem I have with this game is the Trainz patcher is just as bad as it was on Trainz 2012, i.e. it won't let me patch to the latest version. Okay. One problem I have with this game is the Trainz patcher is just as bad as it was on Trainz 2012. It still won't let me patch to the latest version. For example, when I click on Trainz settings and under install, I click check for TANE updates. And now it's downloading the Trainz patch installer like it usually does. Now it says waiting for Trainz a new area to safely shut down, checking for available disk space for patching, the same thing it usually says. Now it's saying searching for patches, downloading patch file. Actually, it's gotten a lot further than it did last time. I think it might actually be working this time.